Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Edge Grid Podcast. And we are episode number Nabil?
9.
9? No, I think we're 10. I think this is the 10th episode.
Oh wow, double digits.
We made it. You know that most podcasts don't get it to 13 episodes. So we're most podcasts, right?
All right. Well, we'll know in 3 episodes if we're still here.
And for episode 10, we have a very, very special guest. When I say special guest, he is, I believe, the fastest American rider we have today. I think there's no American rider that is faster than him today. And his name is Gagne.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
So first of all, thank you for coming. And I see you're dressing up because you're in Colorado right now, and I know you moved from San Diego. So I'm gonna what we do here usually is we start with the bio, and then we ask some questions. They're not too hard. Don't worry.
Where are you getting a bio from?
We have our sources.
All right.
Gal works for the Mossad.
Oh, come on. You have to go there, right?
Let's see what he comes up with.
You know, once you said it, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Now you have to come clean.
Okay, so you started racing motocross at the age of 5, and you did it until the age of 14, and you won a whole bunch of races. Usually we start asking, questions, but you're probably too young to remember, right?
Well, of course I remember. I started, like you said, you started racing when I was 5, so I have all those memories. Like, my dad was into motorcycles, motocross. So when I was, about that age, I think I got him to get me a dirt bike, and I lived close to this track called Verona Oaks, like down near San Diego, outside of San Diego, and basically started kind of going there every weekend, racing every weekend, and quickly became something like that we did every weekend. I loved it and was having a lot of fun. And being down there was, always local races and stuff like that. A lot of good kids growing up racing, especially dirt bikes. Kind of did that route. And even, before I even got on a road-based bike for the first time, I was kind of just strictly motocross, supercross. Like that was my dream as a kid, is to go racing, motocross, supercross with those guys. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy that I hit the asphalt, when I was a teenager through the Red Bull Rookies Cup, and then it kind of everything took a turn from there. And yeah, here we are. Time flies.
So at the age of 14, like you mentioned, in 2007, what was it? Kevin Schwantz came knocking, or did you guys apply?
We applied. Like my dad applied, I think probably without even telling me. I had like some support from KTM at the time, right? Racing little 50s, 60s, 85s, in a local shop called American KTM that was near me. I assumed probably got some brochures or emails, because they were a KTM dealership, and the Red Bull Rookies Cup thing was a KTM deal. So, he signed me up kind of without telling me anything. All of a sudden he got a call, said, there's this road race tryout if you want to go do it. And it was pretty short notice, I think. So we had to get together leathers and all that, and a helmet. Cause like I said, at that time I had no clue, about road racing whatsoever. I can't even remember ever watching it or maybe I know who like Rossi was or one of the big names, but I don't even know if I did. I got picked. Like there was 100 and something kids that went to Barber for the tryout. Based on just resumes, I think there was quite a bit of hundreds or thousands of entries into that program, and somehow we got picked to go to the tryouts. So it was a pretty funny experience for me as like a little 14-year-old in a whole new world. I had no idea. I just remember even road race bikes were GP shifts, so it was opposite what I'm used to, and I just had I'm like, what's going on here, But I think I kind of figured that out, and I was definitely I was without a doubt one of the slowest kids that they actually picked out of like the 23 kids that they picked. But I think, it was my first day ever on asphalt. I think I got my knee down one time, at that tryout. I remember like one time in turn 2, and yeah, somehow they still picked me. So
Somehow you're always modest, but out of 150 riders, you and a few others got picked, and then you started getting coached by Kevin Schwantz, obviously, and then I believe you also won a few races or won one race at that season.
yeah, so I mean, like I said,
You,
just
you could have
like
you couldn't have been that slow, right?
well, the first couple of tests. I mean, luckily it's funny. Like a guy, Danny Walker, who was also one of the coaches helping out with that program, who I know really well. He kind of jokes about. He remembers me my first day showing up at the road race track. I remember even literally trying to put my knee braces on under my leathers because I didn't know what people wore. I was wearing braces. Um, but yeah, even he'll tell you, I was definitely one of the slowest kids there, or the slowest kids that got picked. But with having no road race experience, I guess they expected me to improve a little bit. And the first couple tests before even first race, out of the 25 kids or so, I was probably like right outside the top 20, like only in front of maybe a small handful of kids. And then after I think the first race, I was kind of in the 15th area, and then second, third race, I was kind of closer to the top 5 or top 10, and then the end of the year, we ended up getting, I think, a couple of wins in that class. So it was fun. It was fun progression at that. At that age, you don't think much. You kind of just pick up on stuff, and it just kind of rolled.
I was going to ask, did something clicked, or I mean, how do you do that? I mean, you're very good at progression. If there's any rider that anybody can look at and say, okay, this guy progressed from A to B to C, and all the way, to being a champion. How do you do that progression, especially in your head? How do you click and say, okay, I can go a little faster in this corner, I can brake a little later in this corner. Over here, I need to take the bike up and gas it out earlier. How do you do that thing in your head?
I think the biggest thing is just having like the competition. I was thrown in the deep end, and some of those series in the U.S. Hayden Gillum and Benny Solis and Leandro Mercado, and a bunch of the guys still that we see in MotoAmerica. But those kids are really really fast, and so I think having them on the same track, and like I said, especially being at a young age, you can kind of observe and pick up on things. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like if they can do it, I just got to figure out how to do it. And the body position, and having help from Danny Walker, and even Schwantz was the rider coach, and all it was a good group of people to kind of support the kids. So it was a cool program, because I think it did get a lot of kids, a lot of flat track kids, a lot of motocross kids, kids outside of the road racing, into the sport, which was I think the goal of the whole program. So that was cool.
Good. And then in 2009, they shut it down and they pick you to go to the MotoGP Rookie Cup. And then
Yeah.
the first year you finish sixth, and then the year after that you finished. Remind me.
First, yeah.
First, that's right. You want
Yeah.
you came in and the same progression. You went, okay. So those kids are faster than me, but let me see how I can go faster and faster and faster. And at the end of the day, you're the fastest.
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate to have like my very first 3 years of ever racing on asphalt, having the Rookies Cup here and the best kids in the States, and then going straight overseas. And those kids are no joke. They start from a lot younger and have different ways of riding than I think the opportunities that are here for kids. But it was funny. They picked the top 3 from the U.S. to go to Europe, and I wasn't even in the top 3. But so it was Hayden Gillum and Benny Solis, and Leandro Mercado was third, but he turned it down because he was already like 6 feet and huge kid, and he had some other stuff going on. So I was like next in line, and I slid on in there, and yeah, it worked out. Like you said, first year learned a lot. I think I got a couple podiums, and second year got some wins and got the championship. So it was cool. And JD Beach was the only other guy, the only other kid from the States to kind of win that thing. So I think me and JD are pumped about that.
So how does it work? You go in there and the tracks are totally new. The machinery is the same machinery, right?
Yeah, same machinery, just new tracks.
And who are the coaches?
A guy named his name was Gustav. something. He was in the Jeep. I think he raced GPs back in, I don't know, maybe the 80s or the 90s. And he was good. He was a lot of help for me over there. And, my dad got to go over there with me sometimes. And Danny Walker, who I mentioned earlier, went over there quite a bit with me, which was good to have at that age, that age, to have good people around me, and who believed in me. And also just, I just wanted to have fun. I knew I was learning, and I didn't really expect much, just to do what I could and have fun and do my best. And sure enough, like it kind of worked out.
If you had to compare those two programs, the AMA and the MotoGP, which one do you think has higher level coaches? Which one has better training, and which one has a better chance for someone like you to progress?
Yeah, well, as far as the Rookies Cup thing, that, it was unfortunate that it only lasted 1 year in the States, because if that kind of thing was still continuing here, even to this day in MotoAmerica, like it still is over there in Europe, I think it'd just be a great opportunity for a lot of kids to kind of get in the sport and race up against each other and learn. And but you guys know the GP world over there is it's kind of a whole different circus. A lot more, obvious, a lot more travel, a lot more attention. The Europeans really love their motorcycle racing. Kind of like, I guess we, guys like you and I wish people cared about it as much here, but it's just a different world. A bigger pond, I guess.
I'm just wondering how many Red Bulls do I have to drink to get it back here? I'll do it too.
I don't doubt it.
Like
Red
that
Bull
kid
works
with the
for me.
Pepsi. Did you see that documentary on Netflix? The kid with the Pepsi that wanted the Harrier, and he drank all those Pepsis to get the points.
Did he win?
He had to sue them to get the Harrier plane. I'm not even sure how it ended because I didn't watch the entire thing, but I was just laughing. I was like, "Yeah, I'll drink all those Red Bulls to bring that cup back here." And then 2014, you came back here after 2010. In 2014, you win AMA Pro Daytona Sport Bike on a Yamaha R6.
Yeah, no, but before we get into this, I was curious a little bit. So, typically the progression in Europe is, Rookie Cup, and then typically Moto3 teams start picking up, and like none of the Americans got picked up. And do you think it's like a geographical thing because of the connection, the sponsors, and where you live, or what's happening there?
Yeah, I wish it wasn't, but I think that definitely having the wrong passport just made things a little more difficult. Especially the moto. Like, yeah, recapping, I guess that was my intention. I thought, I won the Rookies Cup, and the next year I'd go into, it was still 125 at the time. So I kind of expected, if I can win this thing, maybe I can get a ride in the 125 class
Right.
world championship. But yeah, it just kind of didn't work out like that, and it was funny because, like I said, I won that championship, and, second through fifth, or maybe even more, all those kids behind me had a world championship ride the next year. But those teams wanted, I talked to some teams, but they want 300 grand or something, to foot the bill for that type of thing. And I don't have that money. My family didn't have that money. And I think being an American, it was hard to find any sort of backing with that amount of money, and I think, that being said, that is easier for Europeans to kind of they have that attention for the sport over there. So it's easier for them to pick up the sponsors and stuff to kind of foot that bill. But for us, it just couldn't happen at that time, so it was a bummer to see, because like we said, the same thing happened to JD. So yeah, just unfortunate, and it doesn't help that, we don't speak the language and all that. Like a lot of those teams, especially in those categories, are Spanish or Italian. So it's, it wasn't really
Right.
part of the family.
I was gonna say I would
Yeah,
just learn Italian. You know what I mean? It's gonna help tremendously if you're
or
communicating
Spanish.
over there. And also, are there any government grants that are gonna help someone like that, or do they have it over there in Europe and we don't have it? Is that the case?
I think I've heard stuff like that. I think probably not like the main European countries, but maybe like like maybe some of the South American countries, or I've heard about stuff like that. But yeah, I should have emailed the U.S. government, see if they can help me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard that as kids go into the Rookie Cup, if they're European, they already have like teams and sponsors they've been talking to. And literally, it's just a question of the kid placing well. and then they pretty much have a path in front of them. And if they don't place well, then they get eliminated. But the fact that they're local and they speak the language and they're like, I guess an American in Spain wouldn't be very marketable if Repsol were to sponsor them. But different
Right.
thing if
Yeah.
you're Spanish.
I knew, I had a bunch of people telling me, even at that age, like 14, when I started going over to Europe, you got to learn Spanish or something. You got to learn Italian. I was studying, doing my best to kind of study at home Spanish and learn a little bit when I was over there, so I could get my way around. But I didn't. I don't. In hindsight, like I didn't put that enough effort into it to really, you've seen. I mean, Gerloff's a great example. Like that guy speaks great Spanish. I wouldn't understand it, but and that's the thing. Being a kid, being a teenager, I was like, I don't need that, or I don't get the time for that. When really, it would have been helpful without a doubt.
I think they have an
Yeah, I
entire.
wonder. I mean, we used to sponsor Benny, and even when he went to do the Moto2 in the CEV program in Spain, I mean, he obviously, natively speaks Spanish, but there's a thing about not being local and kind of not living there and not having the connections and the sponsors and kind of knowing everybody in the paddock even before you get in it, because even with that, it was hard for him to just break through and get on the program, and let alone like stay permanently. And pulling the sponsor was like the biggest piece, right?
Yeah.
You got to afford 2 years of paying for a Moto2 bike, even in a country championship, and then going somewhere with that. You need deep pockets.
I was going to
Yeah.
say they have a machine over there, right? I mean, getting sponsorship is like getting a meeting with a CEO, right, of a company. You need a lead machine, right? And then you need to set up meetings, and then you need to follow up, and you need all those channels of getting to the people that are in charge of the advertising budgets, and putting the media package in front of them, and giving them options. And I think over there they're more they're more into it because they have a machine that's already doing it for so many riders. And it's kind of like over here with UFC, right? It's a machine that works, that generates money for everybody, and that's why everybody's on a contract, right? All the fighters are on a contract. They don't have to worry about those things because they just go into the machine and they go like, yeah, I need this and that, and the leads come in, the meetings come in, and everything comes in. And I think when U.S. riders go over there to Europe and they try to do it as an individual, it's like trying to sell mortgages over here, pulling your own leads, right? You're not going to get anywhere. Even if your name's going to be on a sign on Hollywood Boulevard, you're not really going to get a lot of leads because you don't have that, the lead machine of doing it like
Yeah.
the business that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for a U.S. rider to go into one of those lead machines over there and go into the system over there, you need to be a part of it. You need to be a part of the culture. You need to know the language. And you need to mix with the right people, go to the right parties, get invited to the right, to the right homes, and do it like they're used to doing it. And I think that's what's missing over here because I think the level of riders over here is not only the same as over there, but I think a little higher, because I think we have racetracks that are a little bit more difficult to race at. So when someone goes to Europe, well, that's going to be one of the questions, right? But when someone goes to Europe and all those racetracks, you can see all the corners, and they're all flat. It's a little easier. So the way we do it over here is pretty darn hard, and we have pretty good riders.
Yeah.
The thing that's missing is that business side of it that's not developed over here.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I think like I mentioned earlier, like Gerloff, who's been over in World Superbike now, and like I said, I think I'm pretty sure that guy speaks really good Spanish, and which means he probably speaks good Italian, and he's kind of made himself a home over there, and he's part of that World Superbike kind of core group of great riders, and I think so. I applaud him for going over there and kind of taking that risk, but also then kind of, like I said, getting settled, making sure he does everything he can to stay in that kind of core group of guys that are really good. and have a good relationship with these teams and all that stuff. So yeah, I think he's
Yeah.
like even seeing Bobier over there the last couple of years. I mean, we all saw how fast he was, especially towards the end of last year. And but it's not easy. It's not easy being an American. I'm kind of similar to Bobier, and whereas I like being home. I love where I live, and I think he's the same way. Sometimes the travel was a little bit rough, and living in Europe was just a whole different experience. And until if you're not ready to really like immerse yourself in it and commit, then I think it just makes things tougher.
Yeah, it becomes like camp. Everything
Yeah,
is just towards doing what you're doing. There's no downtime, because even your downtime is strange country, strange habits,
yeah,
Well, that's what
no
Buzz
friends.
did, right? That's what Buzz did. He flew home after every round, I think, right? So he treated this as a job. He came over here, he did his thing, and then he came back, right? He went back home. So I saw his Instagram, posting steaks from France, right? Between
yeah.
rounds.
I think Danilo kind of did the same thing, and but it's what it's what any of us would probably want to do. If you're racing hard and you have a bit of time, the for most people, I think the most comfortable place to kind of recharge and get ready is to kind of be home. And it's easier for those Europeans to
Right.
fly home every weekend between the European rounds, but you can't really do that coming back to the States.
Yeah.
Yep. So back to the US. You were on the 2014. So 2014 Pro Daytona Sportsback champion on an R6. How was the transition back to American tracks and a street bike in a sense?
Oh yeah, it was so 2012 is when I started in the 600. It was called Sport Bike, the Super Sport class at the time. Um, and at that time it was a really cool transition going from the 125 to the 600. Obviously, at that time it's like an incredible amount of power. When you're coming from a little two stroke, it's obviously a lot heavier, but um, I guess kind of like what I said earlier, you're young, you kind of figure it out. You get in there with guys who are going faster than you, and you kind of just try to learn. And so I had a lot of, luckily had the road race factory team for those first 3 years of the 600s, and we were able to kind of bring the championship home. And that was the year right before the first year in MotoAmerica in 2015. So when MotoAmerica stepped in, I think it kind of gave us all of us a little bit of a fresh light. And a kind of a new way of a new series type of thing.
And straight on to winning, huh?
Well, the 2012 was my first year in sport bike, and I don't remember. I think I might have gotten one win in the rain at Homestead or something, or I think that was my first year. But that was back when Martin Cardenas, Bobier was on the 600, Westby, that was a cool time for the super sport class. I think it was a lot of good guys, like 2012, 2013, and then 2014 was my last year on the 600.
It's the same progression, right? You come in and you learn, and you win, right? You stay behind people and you go like, oh, that's what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it, right?
Yeah.
And then in 2015, MotoAmerica Super Sport Champion with 11 victories on the YAMAHA R1. And
Yeah, that was another cool year. That was I got to stick with still the road race with the road race factory team at the time. With Danny Walker, Scotty Jensen as my crew chief, and Danny Anderson and all those guys. And that was a cool year. That was another big jump from the 600 to the 1000. I loved having all that more power. And that year, I think that was the first year of the new kind of generation R1. And that bike was just dialed in. That was a real simple, like just amazing motorcycle and super stock trim. And that year we won a lot of races, and I threw it down a couple of times trying to, like our super stock bike worked so good at some of the racetracks that, we were always trying to run down some of the super bikes, cause we raced in the same start at that time. So that was a cool year. Yeah.
And then in 2018, Nikki passes, and how did it go? You get the call?
Yeah, so I was riding still with the Road Race Factory team, and we were riding Hondas that year in the Superbike class. So, and we were getting a little bit of support from kind of American Honda at that point. Obviously, I had Red Bull still on board, and so when Nikki passed, that was obviously that was crazy for all of us. I think Red Bull, they had to put somebody back on the bike eventually, and so the first round back was Laguna Seca, so I was kind of the first guy to ride his bike after he passed on, and so yeah, obviously a horrible, not a good circumstance, but it was crazy. I ended up there at Laguna Seca, on the World Superbike grid for the first time. It was a total surprise. I think we only had a couple weeks notice probably. So that was it was a big shock. And it actually went really pretty dang good. I thought, we were right there. Like, I don't remember how we finished, but right there kind of in the points. That was when Stefan Brattle was teammates with Nikki. So, I mean, we've all known Stefan Brattle and MotoGP, Moto2, all that stuff. And it was funny. We were kind of right there, like not too far off him. And he didn't like it very much. That guy didn't say one word to me. But it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. Huge new experience working with that whole team with the electronics and like so much more than I was ever used to riding superbikes in the States. And so, but I had a lot of fun. And fortunately, they must have not hated me because they called me back to do a couple more wild cards at Qatar and France later that year. And then again, they must have felt all right because they called me back to do a full-time year the following year with the Tenkate guys. So
they also said it. They said we had a lot of fun with him. They issued a statement, if I remember, and they really liked you.
Yeah, we all had a good. I really liked those Tenkate guys. They were most of the team was from the Netherlands. And those guys they're all really cool, really friendly. Obviously they all spoke really great English too, which helped me. My crew chief was a British guy. And a lot of good people, my Massimo, my Italian data guy, and a lot of good people. So we had a lot of fun. And even though I was really jumping in the deep end and taking a big step, I learned a lot that year and we had a lot of fun. And got some momentum going towards the end of the year. And unfortunately I couldn't kind of bring the momentum into the second year and came back here, but that's how it worked out. So
I don't think the machine was. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nabil.
I think I was going to ask the same thing. So the Fireblade, that was their first year, like it was in development still, right?
I heard also stories that the chassis couldn't handle the power, and they ran into a lot of issues. But those are just rumors. So we actually got the guy here. So what's the deal with that bike?
Especially at that time, it was for sure not the fastest bike out there. We were down on horsepower. The electronics package, I think, was actually pretty good. But we definitely struggled with chassis, just getting the chassis to do what we wanted to do. And, at that time, obviously I think Johnny Ray was still like the man beating up on everybody. So those Cowies and those Yamahas, probably the Ducati too, those were all they were a little bit of a step ahead of us in development and horsepower and everything. So, but it's cool, it was cool to kind of, like I said, make a lot of progress, and we were kind of right there knocking on like the top 10 towards the end of the year. And for me, that was cool, as just a little motocross kid, like looking back and kind of taking a look around and realize that I was in the World Superbike paddock was really, really cool. So.
And then when it ended, you came back to MotoAmerica on a BMW, and then you went like, I'm home again, and let me exercise what I learned, or were you like bummed?
Obviously I would have for sure liked another opportunity to go back, and obviously a second year with the tracks and the tires and the bikes. But yeah, like I said, it wasn't in the cards. And then so that would have been 2019 when I rode the BMW. And that was kind of a rough off season. On New Year's, I broke my leg really bad. And even at that time, I had some surgeries to get it all put together. And even at that time, I wasn't 100% sure on what I'd be doing for that year. But luckily with Scheibe BMW here in MotoAmerica, we kind of worked it out. And I was still limping pretty bad for the first half of the year. But, we made a lot of progress. It was a fun group of guys to work with. And towards the end of the year, again, we kind of had some good momentum going. So had a lot of fun. And then the following year I was back at home on a Yamaha. So
And that's when the story gets interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was funny at when I was still riding the BMW. Barber was the last round, and I remember talking to Tom Halverson and Keith McCarty and those guys. Um, and obviously I was trying to like, hey, let me ride that thing. And I had a great relationship with Tom and Keith and all the guys from Yamaha from all our years with the Road Race Factory Yamaha. And sure enough, Keith calls me after, because there was rumors of Gerloff going over to World Superbike, which left that seat open. So yeah, sure enough, a couple weeks after Barber, Keith gives me a call and he said, "Hey man, you want to ride this Yamaha Superbike?" And at that time, that was kind of a dream come true for me. Like the dream team, dream bike. And yeah, I was a little nervous though, because then after I heard from Keith, I texted Garrett and was like, "Hey man, so you're gonna get that World Superbike gig?" And there was a point where he's like, "I don't think so now," or "I'm not really too sure." And I'm like, "Well, dang, you're gonna take, that's I was hoping to take your seat." And
You gotta go. You gotta go.
yeah, luckily it worked out. Like I said, I was bugging Garrett, like, "Hey man, is it gonna happen?" And so I was pumped for him, and I was pumped that it gave me that seat, to be Cam Bobier's teammate that next year. And had a lot of fun being back on the Yamaha. I learned a lot my first year, especially with the team, kind of working a lot with my riding. And having a guy like Cam Bobier, who was the, 5-time or something Superbike champion. And he's had so many years on that Yamaha and the R1 that he was crazy fast that year. And, but I learned a lot, I learned a lot from seeing what he was doing on the Yamaha, how I had to ride the Yamaha a little bit differently than what I was used to the previous couple of years riding other motorcycles. And so yeah, I had a lot of fun that year, learned a lot. And then the next year it kind of came all together. Obviously Cam went off to Moto2, and so I feel like I was kind of the guy next in line on the Yamaha to get it done. And a lot of things just clicked. Like I said, I learned a lot being teammates with Bovier. And yeah.
So
get it done. You did.
Yeah.
So Cam goes away, and the rumors were that you took his bike along with the settings, and then you went faster than him in almost every track with his settings. Are those rumors true?
No, and we had the same bikes when we were teammates. There was nothing, there was no special parts going to Cameron or anything like that. He just had a lot more experience. He rode the bike better, understood the bike better, and some setup stuff. We were always pretty similar, but we were kind of going our own directions, with our different styles. And like I said, I learned a lot with my riding, from watching Bobier racing with him, and then also learned a lot from my team and how to set up a superbike. Cameron was really good at that, having all those years with that team, and working with a lot of good guys. That was just another step, is me trying to figure out what I needed, all setup wise, to kind of help me do what I wanted to do, so and every year, that was the first year when Bobier was on there. That was the first year Attack took over Yamaha's US program. And ever since, Richard Stamboli, that guy's been awesome, and we keep getting better every year, like everybody else does. That's a progression, but making progress every year. So that's always the goal, is to go faster every year. So
2021 rolls around, and you get 17 wins in one season, breaking Josh Hayes's record of 16 wins, and you get 445 points, right? And is that the reason why you had to flee San Diego, because you broke Josh's record?
Yeah, I was worried Josh was going to come knocking on my door. No, yeah, it was kind of an incredible year. It started off the first round, we DNF'd, which was odd, and then I was kind of motivated. I felt like we had the package to win, and if we put everything together, and if I put it all together in the race, and I feel like we should have been the guy that was kind of right there at the front. Obviously all those guys, were still riding great. Bobby and Cam, Matty Skoltz, obviously, and Baz, all those guys. But we just had that little bit more speed at a lot of the tracks, with how good our setup was and how much I was feeling with everything in the bike. And just kind of clicked them off, had fun. And it was cool winning all those races. And I know some of them might have been a little bit boring to watch, but as me as a racer, I was just trying to give it everything I had every lap. And at that point, our bike setup and everything was just really, really on point. And we kind of just took advantage of it,
I was going to say, the fact that you say they all rode great, how do you know? You were like half a lap in front of them. So how do you know how they rode? They never saw you, you never saw them, all right? Just at the start.
Luckily, it was funny too, because before that year, I had never been I wouldn't consider myself a fantastic starter. I have some good ones and I have some bad ones, but luckily that year I kind of like really figured out some stuff with my starts. And so it made it a little bit easier. If I could pull a whole shot almost, most of the races, it made it to where I could run the pace that I wanted to run, and whoever was there, was there. And most of the time it was enough to just sneak away a little bit. So.
And then the season ends, and do you sit at home going like, "Holy crap, what just happened?"
It's kind of funny. I mean, it was, like I said, it was cool, but in the moment it's great. But once the season's done, I mean, it is what it is, and I'm already kind of focused on next year. It's the same story with this last year. We won the championship a couple months ago, but since then, you got to move on and already start focusing on the next year. So I guess. I was proud of the job we did as a team, and I was proud of myself, especially that first year, getting my first Superbike win and then the championship. A lot of things came together, but at the end of the day, we just got to worry about going forward and what's coming,
Did Ducati come over with a fat check after 2 years where they're trying to get you and they're bringing all those stars from Europe and they go like, we better just hire this guy because we can't beat him?
No, man. And I'm so happy with this Yamaha team and the guys that I'm with. I think everybody knows that. So.
So there was some pretty stiff competition, right? We had Loris Baz in 21, Petrucci came on board, and I mean, they placed, but didn't threaten really too much. What do you think happened there?
Yeah, Buzz wasn't there. I mean, how many podiums did he even get at the end of the season?
Yeah, he wasn't quite as consistent as Danilo, but when he was fast, he was really, really fast. And especially in practice and qualifying and all that. But I think it was tough to string all those laps together, and maybe with how he was feeling and the setup, whatever, it was just, that was kind of where we were able to make our break in most of the races after those first couple laps and just kind of keep building speed. There wasn't, these last couple of years, it wasn't a whole lot of, for me at least, it was never just sit back and wait till the end of the race. I wanted to get as much as I could out of the bike every single lap. And but I think Danilo did, obviously he had being one more year of development on the bike and the team and stuff. I think they had a better motorcycle with Danilo. But same thing with him, man. He even on a new track, you never knew. He was always right there. He was always fast. And even times when he was, a half second or a second off in qualifying, I could never count that guy out for the race. He really stepped it up come race time, most of the time, and it got it done, and he was really consistent, which, that was I struggled. I crashed out of a couple races, races that we should have won. And that put us in a hole, and with a guy like Danilo who I think he finished pretty much every race besides like maybe a DNF. It was, he put the pressure on me, to not make any more mistakes. And I made a couple, but I learned a lot. So.
Yeah, it's one of the mistakes. I mean, I think I remember two of them specifically where I actually scared my dog because I'm like sitting there watching the race, and you break the bike in half and it just flies up in the air in two pieces, and I was like, oh my God. And my dog's like, on the couch just starts barking. And then another one where you crash and then he crashes right after you because I'm sure he was like looking at you, and then he goes like, yeah, my tires were cold. No, that's not what it was. It was target fixation. That's what it was.
Yeah, that one at Brainerd that one hurt me the most. Like I said, we had a DNF the first race. I crashed out like the third race, and so we were pretty far back. And finally, that was towards the end of the year. Brainerd, I think we were going in after the first day. I think I might have been leading that championship for the first time all year. And then on Sunday, I had like a 3-4 second lead, and I felt like I was just cruising, but I just pushed a little too hard and threw that thing away. And yeah, split that bike in half, and that one hurt me. Not physically, but I was okay. I got up pretty easily, luckily, but that one bummed me out. I was just bummed, man, to hurt that motorcycle like that. And but I learned a lot, because crashing out of the lead with like a 3-4 second lead, not too much to go, that was on me. I couldn't make any excuses. So that one made me feel bad, and we lost the championship lead again. And so at that point in the year, it was like, all right, it's going to go down to the last race.
You know what's funny? I looked at your face after, and you didn't seem worried at all because you knew you had it, right? So you're like, yeah, this championship is still mine. Doesn't matter if you're currently leading, because I'll let you lead. I'm still going to take it from you, and then I'm going to watch you as I walk away from you with the trophy. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, he's going to get it again.
That's kind of, I mean, that was the attitude that I had to keep, even when we were at one point, like I said, I think we're over 50 points down, or maybe more. And so all I could do is just focus on trying to win races, and of course, trying to do that, mistakes will happen sometimes, but I always still thought that we could get it done, as long as we all did our jobs good. And yeah, luckily we pulled it off, but it was fun. It was a fun nail biter going all the way down to the last race. So it was a first time for me in any of the couple of championships that I've won. So
that's one thing, you're always looking very calm. You get this calm face, like you're at peace with everything that's happening. You're in control. And, is that just a poker face to kind of psych out the competition? Or are you actually naturally super calm and you kind of handle things that way?
I think naturally that's just kind of how I've been. And, spending my whole life racing motorcycles, I think that's one thing that you kind of have to learn eventually, is that, you're going to have good days and bad days. But all you can do is kind of learn and move on. And, so I think, yeah. And for me being me, I think when I'm at my best riding and racing, I don't like to be too stressed out or wung out. I don't think about much, line up to the line, and I just say, I trust myself. My instincts will kick in, and I'll do the best I can. That's it, so it's a little easier to not get too stressed out on what could happen or what couldn't happen. I just go out and do my best. And when I do that, I have fun, even if it's not the best day. So.
Yeah, that's a great psyche. So what about 2023? Who do you think is going to be your toughest competition?
Nobody.
It's gonna heat up for sure. It is. Every year it's getting, these last couple of years, everybody's stepping it up. Every season, it's just kind of, if you don't step up, you're gonna get left behind. So everybody's getting faster every year. Obviously my teammate Cam Peterson's gonna be really fast. Matthew Skolt's always gonna be really fast. It'll be great having Bobier back here in the series. It'll be really cool. And I know, even though he's coming back and after being over there for a few years, but I have no doubt he'll be right there at the front, and he'll be fast. And PJ, and obviously Heron, on the Ducati, and yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to get tough for every year. Like I said, the races are going to get closer, and I hope for that too. I want to win races, but I want to race with those guys and put on a show. And so we'll see. I think it's going to be a good year. Yeah.
Are we going to have any European imports on the paddock this year?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Without, it was Petrucci last year, but I think Heron's riding the Ducati now. I saw Forez is riding the 600, which is cool. I even that guy on a superbike, I think would be really awesome too. So maybe he'll stick around. But yeah.
It would have been cool to get one of the Ducati MotoGP guys to come over and try again, just to get humiliated and go back.
I wish Danilo would have came back for another year, because obviously having another year on the tracks and the bike and the tires, no matter who you are, you're going to make a lot of progress. And so, because he came here to our backyard, to my backyard at all these tracks that I've been racing, since I was a teenager. So. I kind of did the same thing going over there to their backyard, and it's no matter what, there's things that are new and there's things that take adjusting. And so it would have been cool to see him come back, but yeah, either way, I think we're in for a good show. So
yeah, it would have been cool if you would go back there and try a few, a few more years just to get the experience and get a better machinery, because I think the results would have been much different.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, it was cool. It was a cool opportunity. It was cool that we got to go over there last year and do that one round at Portimao. And, we learned a lot for sure. So we'll see, maybe we can do that again this year. It would be cool. We'll hope so.
Good. Okay. So now we have a few questions. You have a rich history with the R1. Compare the 2015 Road Race Factory Red Bull R1 Superstock to the 2016 R1 Superbike, and then the bike you're riding now, the Fresh and Lean bike. What are the main points? The bikes are different. Where are they similar? Where do you see 8 years of evolution in that machinery? And what's going to be different in the 2023 bike? And you can wear a journalist hat right now and tell us from the angle of a test rider, what's different with those bikes? How are they similar?
Going back to like the 2015 R1, like I said, that was a pretty simple, like I think the Superstock rules, we couldn't do a lot with the motor or the chassis or the electronics. It was a lot of just getting geometry and suspension and stuff right. And for me, that bike coming from an R6 to an R1 was like the perfect transition, because the chassis kind of really had a similar feel. The bike was still really nimble, just had a lot more power. So just figuring out how to utilize that. But now off the showroom floor, I don't know how much they've changed, as far as chassis and all that. I think a lot of it is pretty similar, but obviously, the Yamaha Attack Yamaha we have now has quite a bit more power than the Superstock one had. We have more electronic capabilities with traction control, wheelie control, and engine braking, and all the different strategies. That's a lot more complicated, and that takes time to kind of learn and wrap your head around, working with that and seeing how to get it better. And of course, some different chassis stuff compared to the stock bike. We got, Attack makes really great swing arms that have helped us. Triple clamps, Attack triple clamps, so we could change offset and do a lot more with geometry and stuff like that.
Do you lean heavily on changing the geometry, or do you lean more on the electronics, or both?
With my experience with the R1, like we always want to experiment with geometries and ride height and different weight bias, but once we're in kind of a pretty good sweet spot geometry wise, even the last couple of years, we don't really have to make any big changes from there, from racetrack to racetrack. A lot of it might just be kind of more suspension changes and stuff like that. And that's a nice part, I think, about the R1 that's helped us. Our track, there's a lot of different type of tracks in the US, but once we kind of have that geometry that I like and that feels good for me, and I get the feedback that I want, we can kind of bring it anywhere, and we don't have to change much racetrack to racetrack. A couple clickers here, some valving maybe, and then from there, just different electronic strategies and stuff like that. So
it has the slide control.
I don't think it works like the slide control that you get on the stock R1s, because, we have the Morelli system, Magneti Morelli stuff on our Attack Yamahas. And, it's pretty amazing, how that technology has come along, you can even, cause you can change stuff turn to turn. I could have, if I want to slide more in turn 2 and less in turn 5, we can make those adjustments, turn by turn, and really kind of, at the same time, it is really cool, but in the beginning it can be a bit confusing. You don't want to stress about having like all this perfect electronic settings and forget about actually riding the bike. It's kind of the same thing. Once we're in a sweet spot of how much wheel spin we're comfortable with, how much engine brake kind of force we want, it doesn't change a whole lot, racetrack to racetrack, once we're in that kind of box.
When you go out of a corner, do you open it immediately all the way and ride against the TC, or do you try to be smooth when you open the throttle and just rely on the mechanical grip and just slightly slide into the TC area?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, just because there's some great TC, it doesn't mean you can go in there and slap the throttle open. Like, you'll land on your head still, for sure, no matter how good the TC is. But so there's still I mean, if you could see our throttle lines in our data, there's still a lot of manipulating the throttle depending on how much you're sliding the bike. The biggest thing that it helps with is coming off the turn does not overspinning the tires. We want to kind of keep it in that perfect amount of spin where we're going forward, but still being able to get the steering that we want kind of out of the turn. So yeah, being able to kind of play with that and how much spin we actually want. And, nowadays too, it is lean angle based. So we can have a little bit more at full lean. You still got to be careful with the throttle, but, and it's one of those things too, like we could have a lot or a little, but the most important thing is like at the rider, he knows what it's going to do, so I know what the bike's going to do. I have a good connection with the throttle after, riding it for these last couple of years, that I'm really confident in how much throttle I can apply at full lean, or how I got to use the throttle to keep it spinning or to try to stop it from spinning. So I think like I said, it's just kind of making sure that the rider understands like what's going to happen underneath them when they do this or that.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is because I see you exiting the corner and straightening up the bike way more or way faster than anybody else, and your hand is twisted all the way, and you exit. I can't get away from the microphone, but you exit that when the bike's almost straight and everybody else is leaned, and you're just you shoot out like a rocket. So I'm wondering, the throttle control. How does it work when it comes to lean angle? Because I see you straightening the bike immediately. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, with these super bikes, they have so much power that you're not getting, if you're on the edge of the tire, you can't really take advantage of that horsepower, TC or not. So it's, it's been a priority. And with this Yamaha to really get off the turns good is to actually make sure I do decrease the lean angle and get it onto the fat part of the tire before I can really crank on the throttle. But yeah, when you see that coming off the turn and I actually kind of bring the bike up to have a lot less lean angle, that's kind of the time where I can really, really punch it really into the throttle and really, get a lot closer to full stick. Cause then at that point, like I said, our TC and our wheelie control can make sure the bike doesn't wheelie too much. And you're going to get a lot more mechanical grip when you're on the meat of the tire like that anyway. So the TC kind of comes out of play a little bit more. And we can kind of try to save the edge of the tire a little bit and be on it a little bit less than some of the other guys.
So you have it at the end of the race if you need it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So looking at the results, you'd think the bike is perfect, but I'm sure there's some wishes you have for 2023. If there's anything you wanted the Yamaha to do better next year, without giving away any secrets.
For sure. One thing that's cool is, I think with Dunlop's coming out with kind of a little bit of a different front tire that we were using, that I used to let a test last year, which I think next or this year, we're all going to be using those tires. So I think they made a lot of progress in the feel of the front tire and how hard you can brake on it. And kind of the contact patch that you feel underneath you. So I think, that's kind of the big priorities is make sure we can try to take advantage of this front tire and see what we need to do with the setup to change it, to make sure we can really take advantage of, I think all of us guys will be able to get on the brakes harder and maintain a little bit more brake all the way to the apex, just with the feel we have with the front tire. So, making sure we take advantage of that. And obviously we're always trying to fine tune. And like I said, even this off season and testing, we'll be testing that button willow a lot. And, it's always nice to kind of try some different geometries, like just let's try lifting the front up, or lifting the rear up, or changing the head angle and stuff like that, just to see what it does and just kind of experiment around a little bit. And then sometimes that's kind of how you find something that like just feels good,
Are you going to try wings?
Wings?
Yeah, like the Ducati has?
No, I don't think so, and I don't even know what the rules are with the wing thing. And, yeah, I don't get the wing thing. They're motorcycles. I don't really think they need wings, but, and they look funky, but whatever.
The Honda ones are like built into the fairing, so you hardly see them, but it looks clunky. But I guess the theory behind it is that the front's already compressed when you start braking, so you can start braking faster instead of doing the modulation of the brake, I guess.
Yeah. It's amazing to see what they're doing in like MotoGP with those things now. And obviously that if they didn't work, they wouldn't be using them. It's just still funny for me to see some of those big things on those bikes.
So speaking of tire, you rode in MotoAmerica and Superbike, World Superbike, and you've tried both Superbikes and both tires, the Dunlop and the Pirellis. What are like the big differences you found between both like the bikes and the tires?
Um, well, with the World Superbike, the rules are actually, I think, pretty similar. I don't know all the details, but obviously, and a lot of those guys in Europe maybe have more resources um, but as far as the rules, I think they're pretty similar. The gas is different. I think they could get a little bit more power out of the bikes, maybe, but so the main thing really is the tracks and the tires. The tires the tires have a different feel, like the way they flex and the way they move and kind of react to bumps and react to slides and all that. It's just a different feel. It takes some getting used to, and even some different bike setup stuff. Like if you're going to go from Dunlop to Pirellis or vice versa. And so that kind of, it just takes time, experience, and as a rider to kind of just wrap your head around it and understand how to make them work and get the most out of them and all that.
So is there enough difference that you kind of have to adapt your riding style to the tire, or you kind of ride the same way just with minor adjustments?
If there's for sure minor adjustments, not only with the bike setup stuff, but definitely with how you ride, to take advantage of just the way that the tires react, and I think that's, for example, when we went over there at the end of last year after riding Dunlops for years on this bike, I would have expected, putting Pirellis on that. It was more, I think, of a change than even I anticipated after having a couple of years. I'd only been on the Pirellis a couple of years ago. And so, yeah, just different things you got to wrap your head around.
Well, what do
Got
you
it.
what do you prefer? You prefer that uh, Pirelli softer carcass, a little bit more grip, or do you prefer the Dunlops that are stiffer and have maybe a little less grip, but they change less their behavior under load?
I'm biased, but I'm a Dunlop guy, and maybe it's because I've spent all these years on the Dunlops. I know them, I know them like they're my own, and how they feel and react, and um, how long they last is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm a Dunlop guy. I built my whole career on Dunlops, and so they're just like home to me.
Do you have any World Superbike stories from the paddock? Anything wild? Because we talked to some World Superbike riders, and they said, yeah, the old days were more wild than today. So since you're a newer generation rider, is it still wild, or is it all business over there?
I don't think it was, like it was back in the day for sure. I don't really have any any crazy stories. I'm not a big party guy. Um, the only thing that comes to mind, I think I knew like my teammate was Leon Camier, and all the British guys, the English speaking guys when I was there on World Superbike were really cool. And I talked to them when I could. There was one night we were all hanging out, and one of their Modi homes, Johnny Ray and Camier and Sykes, Laverty, who else am I missing? We got to hang out, and eventually I remember a couple of their friends going outside to box with some boxing gloves and some bottles of wine, and some people stepping on some wine glasses and stuff like that, but nothing too outrageous.
Oh, that's a good party pack. Bottles of wine and boxing gloves.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
where
I
are you
didn't
going?
I didn't get in the ring, but I spectated.
That's fun. Now, well, since we went back to Leon Cami, I was gonna ask and then I refrained. Now I have to ask it. So, any when you were teammates, did Leon give you any dirt on MV Augusta?
Yeah, oh yeah, he did. Yeah, it didn't end well.
Did that dirt come from an engine that someone forgot to change the oil 1 mile after they needed to?
I don't. I don't know. I mean, we all saw that how many times that bike didn't finish the race. Yeah, even besides that, I don't think he was too happy with those guys. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, look at how happy Gal is with that question.
Well, all I'm saying is, I told you before, one word, Craigslist. So I think seriously, we should petition to get Colin Edwards as chief culture officer in World Superbike.
Mm.
And that'll make it more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. We did a podcast with him, and every time he cursed, we had to take a shot.
Oh boy. Wow.
Yeah.
Rough.
We had quite a few drinks that night.
Yeah, I've only spoke to that guy a couple times in my life, but I always looked up to him, and especially when he was in GP, and World Superbike, I always liked that guy.
He's fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nabil.
No, I was going to say I want to really go try his ranch experience. Sounds like tons of fun.
For sure. As an ex-teammate of Josh Aaron, do you think he can do a better job with Ducati this year?
I hope so. I think having, he's got so much experience on so many different bikes, whether super bikes or 600s. And I think he's the type of guy, we all know he's got so much talent. And when things are working good and he feels good with the bike, he can always be right there, winning races. So I could never count that guy out for sure. And I hope he gets up there and is fast and in the battle. And I think he will be, I don't have any doubts. I didn't know Josh much until I was teammates with him that year. But he's a good dude. We got along really well. He's a character. He's a funny guy. I know he gets heated sometimes, but that's racing. Everybody does. And, but he's a good guy. So we've always gotten along well since then. So hopefully we can do some racing together.
Okay, good. And what about Cam? Cam's on a BMW. You think the BMW is going to be right there with Cam, or do you think Cam's going to take a year to just adjust back to life in the U.S.?
You never know, but I mean, a guy like Cam, I expect him to be right there at the front, no doubt. It was, we've seen how much that team has made progress with the bike with PJ and PJ qualified on pole, I think at one of the races, and he was always right there. He had some really good speed. And so with PJ and Bobier, both on the team, I think they're both going to really push each other. And like I said, I have to expect that they'll be right there, both of those guys. So, but that's good. I'm happy to see more teams making progress and more bikes making progress, and getting more, a good race at the front. So I'm all about it.
Okay. Yeah. You can see them ride, after the race, on a replay, 10 or 15 seconds behind. But okay. Let's see here. What role does Richard Stamboli play in your preparation, and who else helps you both with riding and with setup? I mean, the best athletes in the world all have coaches, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, Richard Stamboli's kind of the team manager. He's Cameron Peterson's crew chief, but he really works on both sides, like works a lot with both of us guys. He's got so much experience, even already with this R1. He really knows what he's doing, and he always has something. He always wants to get better, and having John Corn Dog, who's my crew chief, working with him the last couple of years, like he's really helped me grow as a superbike rider, helped me understand kind of what I got to do to get better, and what kind of stuff we're trying to get out of the bike to improve, and working together, communicating with what we need with the bike, and kind of that communication is important. So with Corn Dog and Richard, we all kind of work well together. And even with Peterson's side of the team, we all want to help each other get better, so we always sharing data and bouncing ideas back and forth. So it's cool to see. Yeah, it's cool to see a guy like Richard Stamboli and John Cornwell, who have so much experience with setting up motorcycles and developing motorcycles, that those guys are never satisfied. Even if we have a comfortable race win, they're the first people to say, what do we got to do better? good to we have a good communication. We understand each other well. And so I've learned a lot working with those guys. Cause like we said, you know, the super bikes nowadays, it's not about just going out and riding as fast as you can. You know, there's a lot of pieces to come together with the chassis, you know, the electronic strategies. And at the same time, kind of my mentality, you know, those guys keep it cool and keep it calm. So we all really, not only, you know, we're there to work hard, but we all have fun working together. And no matter what, you know, especially Corn Dog, my crew chief, he's awesome. No matter what, you know, the guys just always keeping me calm, you know, keeping me focused on my goals and what I got to do each time when I step on the bike. And so it's a whole good crew, you know.
Do you have anybody for the mental game? I mean, we all know it's a mental game. So do you have anybody that's going to say, hey, you can do this? Or if you had a bad day, put you back on track?
You know, I mean, those guys, my whole team kind of helps me do that, you know, with Stamboli, Corn Dog, Mike Canfield, who's my mechanic, and Walker. We all, like I said, you know, we've had bad days. We've had days where I made mistakes and threw down a bike and split it in half, but no matter what, the guys, you know, we just move forward. We understand, you know, what I might've did wrong, what happened, how we can be better, and we just move on. So it's, you know, and like I said, I guess I'm not really one to get too strung out, whether it's a good day or a bad day. So I just kind of focus on my job. And so we all have a good time. You know, at the end of the day, I know how lucky I am that I get to go race motorcycles with such a cool bike and a cool team and be a part of this world. So I just take it day by day and learn and move on and move forward.
Did you ever have a time where you had like this huge breakthrough, whether mental or riding technique or something where, and you probably precedes your latest, you know, Swiss clock winning every year type of approach, but where you were like doing something for a while and then all of a sudden something broke through and you were like, aha, I could do this so much better.
I think that happens all the time, you know, like, and they're always like little steps, little things with my riding or little things with understanding change and setup that we made that gave me the feeling that I wanted. And, you know, nothing sticks out as like, boom, you know, this is like, that was a game changer. It's a bunch of little things learning over the years, you know. Like I said, I'm fortunate. I'm road racing for like 15 years now. So I've worked with a lot of amazing people on different bikes, and there's never a year or a weekend where I'm not learning something, you know, every time I get on the motorcycle. So it's all, a bunch of little, you know, baby steps.
Yeah, I guess for us track riders, everything seems like a major breakthrough. Like all of a sudden you plateau, and then somebody tells you move off the seat more, and then the bike wants to turn, and you go like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong all this time. It's more of a step approach.
Yeah, those are good to have too. You know, I think, you know, in my first couple of years road racing, like those big aha moments were a lot more often, you know, and now it's just a bunch of little things every time, you know.
Yeah, awesome. So Gal, I think there's one last question. You want to go do it? Because you got the credit for that.
I don't know if, when you say one last question, I see two more questions. The last one is, who's your favorite teammate? But there's one before that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay.
The one before.
Okay, so one of your quotes is, if you're going to be a professional motorcycle racer, you should be able to ride any kind of motorcycle well. How do you get familiar with an unfamiliar bike and go at race-winning pace on it? Describe the process along with all the steps you use to get the feel and push the limits as much as you can and win on it. Now go deep.
I think, you know, like I said, I'm grateful that I got to kind of start on dirt bikes. And, you know, I'm all about riding anything, you know, dirt bikes, motocross, flat track, you know, I still try to do as much as I can. And I think it just develops a lot of different habits and skills. And, you know, even if you're riding a dirt bike, like, you know, I know the body position is a lot different, the techniques and everything, you know, is a lot different, but you can still pick up, I think, just on a lot of little, like, you know, like muscle memory and things like that. Like I think it's important to do as much different stuff as you can, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's just one thing I guess I've always, like I said, I've been fortunate. I raced motocross growing up. I got to do all these road races on a lot of amazing road race bikes. And I've done a lot of flat track, like I do a lot of those American super camps still. So I get to ride some flat track. And like I said, I think no matter what type of riding you can do, any type of seat time is going to help you in some way, like mentally or physically, or just, so I think it's important to ride as much different type of motorcycles, that you can, and just learn from it,
How do you adapt? You go to like a brand new track, or it's a new motorcycle. Like, do you have a process? Let's say even it's a track, right? Do you take mental notes? Do you take written notes? How do you learn so fast to be quick on something new?
I think the biggest thing is just experience, like having to do that all those years, even my first couple of years, like new tracks everywhere I go, and then Europe, and then more new tracks, and new bikes. Like there's not a whole lot going on in my head, before, I don't have like all these checklists of like what I got to do, whether it's a new bike or a new track or whatever. I think, like I said, I'm fortunate to have a lot of experience like in this game. And so I just kind of don't think, and I just kind of trust myself to just go out and ride. And, of course, I think a lot of it is subconscious, like I'm not going out there thinking, find the brake marker here and find the smoothest part of the track here. I think at this point, a lot of that stuff kind of just comes naturally. And as long as I just kind of focus on staying calm, and staying kind of loose, and just finding the way that feels good, like I think at this point in my career, a lot of it is, with the amount, with all of the riding that I've got to do, it's just kind of feel. It's a lot more feel than thinking about it very logically, I guess. A lot of the times I just got to kind of trust that trust that I know what I'm doing out there, at least a little bit, I think. So I just roll with that.
Yeah. So 1,000 points for the gut approach. There was like a lot of research done around the business world on people who actually make decisions by gut versus people who make decisions with a lot of analysis and data and try to rationalize everything. And the conclusion was always tending towards the gut basically gives you all the data that you would actually slow process if you're trying to be conscious about it. But your gut just does that within a microsecond, and you get the benefit of all this experience, and you make the right decision that way. So that's pretty cool approach.
Yeah, I mean, for me, overthinking anything has never really gotten me too far, especially on racing, like I don't want too much going on in my head. Like I said, I just kind of stay calm and just wait for the time to go out there and do it. I think overthinking stuff, like I'm better off just underthinking and trusting my gut, trusting the experience and the skills that I have, to just go out there. And like I said, a lot of this stuff is subconscious, like things that keep me in like the zone of, how I approach each turn. Like I'm not riding around with my eyes closed, just mindless, but a lot of that is just kind of, like experience and learning the hard way. I've done plenty of stupid shit in my career to hurt bikes and hurt myself. And over the years, that's how you learn sometimes,
That's funny. Yeah.
Same in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked to Nick Einach, and for 45 minutes he told us how to get into a corner, right? And you just go like, just do it.
Oh yeah, that's a lot though.
Just do it.
You can't think about all that stuff when you're, no matter how bad you want to, I think you have this big list of stuff going on in your head when you go out there, it's going to be gone, when you're in the zone and you're actually riding, and I think at the same time, it's all, I always go out there with a game plan and a goal and things that I want to do better every practice session, or race. But I think it's important to kind of keep focused on the main points. I don't go, I might have a list of one thing that I want to feel, I might want to focus on feeling how this fork change is, or I might want to focus on just getting off the turns, more roll speed, whatever. But it's never a big list of things. I think I try to keep it simple, and focus on a couple little things at a time.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody that we talk to, they'll have different approaches and different attitudes. So Josh Hayes, for example, says, I have a really large toolbox, and all those tools I took from other riders. So I looked at, Latin goes out of the pits and immediately set a lap record the first lap, and I said, okay, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna use it, right? So what did you take from riders that you saw, and what do you use?
Yeah, I mean, it's good you bring up a guy like Josh Hayes, who, he said that's kind of, I always admired. I mean, I've known Josh a long time, and I've always really admired the guy as a racer and just as a good person. And he's just, he's a badass motorcycle racer. And I always admired, like he just mentioned, or you said he mentioned that, he goes out there and he has a game plan, and he goes out there to ride and be 100% focused every time. He's not lollygagging around trying to find someone to follow or put in a heater and then cruise around. When you're on track, it's game time, and you got to take advantage of every lap you can. So I think he's influenced me a lot, kind of in that aspect, how you kind of go about taking advantage of every lap that you're on track. And that kind of makes it easier to translate in the race, where he was the guy kind of doing what I've been able to do sometimes here the last couple of years, where he just, if he gets out front, he's going to get everything he can out of the motorcycle every lap, whether he's got a half-second lead or a 5-second lead. He wants to go out there and give it his best and not screw around. When it's game time, it's game time. So I think that's one cool thing. It's funny that you brought that up, because that's been a big thing for me.
And I think it'll be a good idea to give him a ride on an R1 this year, at least as a wild card once.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I remember last year he came out, him and Jason Pridmore at a test of Buttonwell, and they got to ride, our Superbike that we won with, last year, and it was cool. Those guys had a lot of fun.
I heard he got like a second off the lap.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's fast. I mean, I know he was fast for sure. So that guy can ride, no matter what.
Okay. I think I don't have any more questions. Do you have any questions, Nabil?
No, I think we've dug into this pretty deep.
Yeah, I'd
Anything
like to.
else you want to talk about, Jake?
No, it was good talking. It was fun. It was fun reminiscing on the old times.
The old times.
Yeah.
You're still winning. The old
Not that
times.
old. But, even my earlier years of road racing. So yeah, it was cool. It's good to talk to you guys, and let me know. We'll get back on here soon. Maybe once we get racing this year and have some more to talk about.
Yeah, I'd like to see you, do a few more seasons here and then move to MotoGP.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So, yeah, I think.
Start making some calls for me if you got any contacts.
Colin Edwards? No. It's, if they're just going to, I think you're one of those guys that if they're just going to give you like a 3-season deal, the third one you're going to win the championship. That's what I think. The first one you're gonna come in top 10, and then the second one you're gonna come in 5th, and then third one you're gonna win. I think that's how you work. Just on instinct, you're just gonna feel the bike and go with it. So that's what I think. But we'd love to see you win again another season here, maybe 2 more seasons here. And we like seeing your face, when you smile and you go like, yeah, I just went out there and rode, and then everybody else goes like, yeah, it was just different level. We couldn't catch up. That's what we like to see. So thank you for showing up on our little podcast, and thank you, Nabil.
Thank you so much, Jake, for your time and all the great stories you shared. And best of luck for the season. We'd love to see you winning.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. It was cool to talk to you, and we'll definitely catch up, once we get into the season here again and see what's what.
For sure.
It's a date. All right.
Thanks, guys, for listening.